up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis and welcome back to another video. So today we're here at the testing bench, 3D printer bench. It's a bench of all things. And I'm actually in the middle of testing my nitrates and phosphates. Looks like we have 20 seconds left on our nitrates and I'm just finishing up my phosphates. So I want to make this video and talk about some of the things that I have, admittingly messed up on when it comes to dosing nitrates and phosphates. And this is just my previous system, like the 125, I wasn't really dosing the stuff. When I got here on the 300 and I got the better skimmer, the better refugium, just a better system in general, it really came down to me not having enough nitrates and phosphates, so I've made adjustments to my food and all sorts of things. And yeah, I know the lighting is pretty rough here, I apologize. But anyways, we're going to finish up the testing on the phosphates kind of while I'm chatting here, and then we'll get into the rest of the video. So when it comes to nitrates and phosphates, I try to keep them off of zero at all times. That's my biggest goal. Like, I don't care if it's even a half a ppm, I still will take that over zero, because as you know, once you get to 0 ppm, you end up running into issues with dyno. Like, I've had dyno many times in this setup because either I am too busy to test, I refuse to keep up with my nitrates and phosphates dosing, or I'm not feeding enough, or I'm just not paying attention to the tank. You can pretty much sum it up as that. And I end up bottoming out, getting to zero, and then, well, dyno comes in, and then you got to deal with all that. So when it comes to nitrates and phosphates, I do whatever I can to keep it off zero at this point. So when it comes to the 300, I simply dose nitrates. That's my biggest thing right now. I think I'm like 150 milliliters via the dose every single day. And then with phosphates, I just added more phosphates or plant material to my food, and that seems to help. I don't know why, when it comes to the setup, that I'm having a harder time keeping my nitrates elevated opposed to the phosphates. Again, it might just be the food, because I am adding a lot of nori and broccoli and stuff like that to my homemade food. And I'll do a separate video if you guys want to see that new recipe, or I can put it in the description, just let me know. But I have no issues with phosphates now. I'm staying at about 0.9. No problems with phosphates, but my nitrates are always at 0.05. Getting it above 1 has just been a problem over the last month. So with that, I've been dosing 100. I started off at like 50 milliliters because we like to start slow when it comes to dosing, and I moved my way up to 150, 200 milliliters. And by the way, this is not a hickey. I was fighting this morning. I got all jacked up, so don't anybody be judging me over here. I just saw it in the reflection, like shit, man. Anyways, I've been dosing that stuff consistently over the last month, and I'm having a hard time staying above 0.05 until, 2 days ago, 3 days? No, we're at 4 days at this point, yeah. We're at 4 days ago. I decided, I'm already dosing about 150 milliliters. Let me just go ahead and do one of these numbers. Let me go ahead and just dump it in and see what happens. Well, unfortunately, I did that. We got 3 minutes on this, and, I'm at, 12, I know it's backwards, but it's actually 12.3 ppm. Now, when I originally dosed it, that day I tested like 6 hours later, I was at like 13, and then the next day it was at 7, and then I just fed heavily, and the other day, yesterday, and now I'm at 12.3. So, yeah, it's a little higher than I want, and I'll tell you guys what I noticed with that. So, one of the things that I've realized with reef tanks over the years is anytime you make any major adjustments, you end up causing the corals to adjust. They always adjust, but the stall, or the point where they start to adjust, I've always noticed that I get an alkalinity spike. I'm guessing it's because the corals are shocked with the initial change. Going from 0.05 ppm of nitrates to 12 or 13 in one day, that's going to shock the system one way or another. Now, it might not kill any coral, but it does cause the coral to stop growing initially. Now, one thing that I've realized, because this isn't the first time I've done this, I've done it over the years, and that just kind of pour it in and see what happens. I mean, I'm guilty of it. But so one thing I've noticed is that I get an initial alkalinity spike. So with testing, every single day, I like to use the hand as a backup when it comes to the Trident. Sometimes the Trident just doesn't want to do this thing. But I've always initially got an alkalinity spike. Now, it's only for a couple days, and then as the levels, or as the corals start to adjust to the higher level of nitrates, I get a really big jump in growth, and then I get a alkalinity drop. So within 5 days of doing this number with the nitrate bottle and just dumping that stuff in, I will get an initial increase in alkalinity for a day or two, and then I'll get a pretty drastic drop. So One thing that basically the whole point is if you're just kind of dosing and you're just kind of winging it, make sure you're testing your alkalinity every day. At least on an SBS tank, that's what I've noticed. We get a big spike in alk, usually like a point and a half. Then we get a big drop, usually 1 to 2 points within that 5-day period, because the corals adjust. They're like, oh, this is good. Let's go ahead and get growing again. And then we get the alkalinity drop. So just be careful of that. Now, I have lost some corals over the time, like nothing crazy. I've never had a whole tank just go white on me, but I've had polyp extension issues, and I've had, just corals being pissed off, and I had some STN from the base because of it as well. So I guess I'm still rambling here. We got 30 seconds left on that. So I guess the point is if you're going to be dosing nitrates and phosphates, try to go slow. Now, I say that even though I don't take my own advice, because I get frustrated after several days of just being at 0.05. The corals aren't happy with it being that low. I start to get, I start to convince myself I'm starting to see dino in the 40 breeder over there or something. I'm like, shit. So then I just dump it in. But, lesson learned on that. If you're going to do it, make sure you're monitoring your alkalinity, and there will be changes in that. So just keep that in mind. Now, let's see here. We are at 0.08. I know it's going to be backwards, but 0.08. Kind of. All right. Man, this light sucks. Anyways, it's 0.08 of phosphate. So that's really good. It's always the nitrate. So maybe I'll have to come up with a different fish food recipe, because what I'm feeding right now is working really well for the phosphates, but obviously for the nitrates it's not keeping up. And if you guys are not familiar with what I've changed on the setup so far, I went ahead and I removed my filter socks. I think I mentioned this in the live stream or something. So I removed my filter socks, and that way I didn't have to change them anymore. That way all that stuff bypasses that section. I put some silencers in there because it was, it's still kind of loud, but it's not crazy as bad as it was. But that way that stuff gets sucked up by the skimmer. The skimmer is just balls to the wall now. I'm dumping that 5-gallon Avast Marine collection container once every 3 weeks. Usually before I had the filter socks in, it was once every 2 months. Now it's like every 3 weeks, which means I'm getting some pretty consistent skimmate, which could be why I'm bottoming out my phosphate or my nitrates. But yeah, so I'll do a separate video. You guys can see how much I actually feed. There's just a ton of food going in that tank. So long story short, and I don't know how long this video is. It is 7 minutes. Yeah, we're about done talking. Long story short, if you're going to dose nitrates and phosphates in your retank, make sure you're doing it consistently and slow. And again, don't do everything I do. If you do get frustrated and you just want to dump in a little bit here and there and not calculate it, because I'm pretty sure everybody's done it at this point, make sure you're monitoring your alkalinity. Make sure you keep an eye on that stuff, because your corals are going to be like, I don't like it, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, this is cool, let's keep going. And you got to be able to adjust either your 2-part dosing, your calcium reactor, whatever you're doing to add calcium alkalinity. I know that I temporarily increased the pH in my CO2, like the pH with the CO2 in the chamber there. That way I wasn't dissolving as much media, just to give the corals a chance to adjust. That way the alkalinity didn't get too high. So that's about it for the video, guys. I kind of rambled there, but this is kind of a spur of the moment. Hopefully you enjoy it. If you have any questions, or if you've done this before, let me know. If you've had any other experience besides an alkalinity spike or anything that happened, if you just kind of dump in nitrates and phosphates and see what happens, let me know in the comment section. And I'll see you guys later. All right, peace.